Hi guys, girls and people with alternative pronouns, and welcome to Ray's Painting Place. And in this video I'm going to show you how to build one of these guys. British infantry figure for Burma. Bolt action. So for this project we're going to need two sprues. This is the Commonwealth sprue. It's not been that long released. It's got some nice heads, it's got some slouch hats, it's got some Indian sun pattern heads, which are great for what we want, and it's got various arms. Now the other sprue that you need is the standard British infantry sprue, though I think the commando sprue's probably usable too. Great bodies, some nice backpacks, some bases, obviously we're going to need bases, and standard hats and heads which you can use too. So as long as you've got those two, we're good to go. Right, this is the mini that we're going to try and make. It's going to be the Bren gunner. He's holding the Bren like this, shooting from the hip. This one's got a cool slouch hat on. I'm going to use a different hat, I'll show you that in a minute. He's got the great backpack with the tin cup, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. And yeah, grim determination, fighting through the jungle kind of pose, which is excellent. And a word about that, when you're selecting the different components that you're going to use, have a think about the pose. Try and make it look as natural as you can. One of the poses of the guys is like a slow walk. He's meandering along, and I've used that for a guy carrying a pickaxe, for instance, who's kind of moving positions, maybe moving further up, and he's got to dig a new trench or something like that. And it kind of suits the mood of the figure. You want to make him look natural. With that in mind, this body is kind of bracing, if you see what I mean. He's got his weight on his back leg, he's leaning slightly. Maybe you could use him to throw in a grenade or something like that if you were building the standard model. But here what we want to do is we want to try and get this Bren arm on this side. We've got the other arm here where he's holding on here to the support. It's like a grip that comes out there, and he holds onto that, and that's what's going to give us a problem, because I'll try and show you that the shoulders of these models kind of slope towards the back, doing this, and that's a problem because the shoulders of the Commonwealth sprues are not in that direction. So when you put the arms on, what happens is that the arms are kind of pointing away from each other, which is a bit of a nuisance. So what I've done anyway is I've cut off the various bits and bobs that I want. I want this body. I want it to be the Bren gunner, so there's the Bren gunner. There's the arm holding the grip. You just about see the grip there. I've got his pack with the excellent tin cup, which I think is absolutely fantastic, real characterful. He's got an entrenching tool. Not everyone had the entrenching tool there with his water bottle, but I'm keeping it on because it adds a little bit of character, and it wasn't uncommon for them to have it. I'm using a separate head. I'm not using the Commonwealth head on this model. I'm going to use it's got a nice pulling sort of grimace on his face there, and a traditional British steel helmet, which we'll stick on at a jaunty angle to give him a certain look. Okay, so I've clipped these off the sprue, I've tidied them all up, I've used a file, used a knife. Be careful with the knife, obviously. Severed limbs are no fun, he said, looking at a pile of severed limbs. So be careful with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start work on the shoulders. Okay, so what I've done here is I've filed back this pouch here, so that when the arm goes on here, it'll fit snugly against this part, because otherwise this pouch was stopping the arm going on. So the arm will go on there quite like that, you know, giving a sort of this sort of look. Works quite well from that angle, looks quite natural. That's good. Let's take a tiny little bit of plastic off the back here as well, but not much. So that goes on there. I'm not going to glue that on just yet, because this side will probably require quite a bit of cutting, because if I just match that up a little bit, can you see that this is just way over here? Nowhere near, needs to be sort of there. There's a long way to go, so we need some surgery on this shoulder. Okay, so I've got the angle of the top of the arm here to be what I need to bring that arm across the body a little bit. There's going to be a gap at the back, but that's unavoidable, and that's what the filler's for. So what I'm going to do, I've got some liquid glue here. This is Testers, but I mean anything will do. I'm going to start by gluing the brown arm here in, and I'll let that dry off a little bit, because it's delicate and obviously you don't want to break it. Then I'll be attaching this arm, getting the grip into the tiny little hole on the back of the brain, somewhere there like that. We'll have a fiddle around with it and we'll see how far we go, and I'll come back to you and then we'll start work on the filler. Okay, this is the result of gluing the arms on. And as you can see, we've got quite a large back gap at the back here, got a bit of a gap at the front, never mind, and we also ended up with a gap on the other side too, because despite my best efforts this angle here wasn't enough, so I had to take a little bit off there at that shoulder and bring those arms across. But the grip now is so focus on the grip there is correctly attached, and it's a good pose like that. Look, it's kind of cool. So I'm going to get some filler and we're going to start putting it into these gaps here. Now the filler that I use is the Vallejo stuff. It's plastic putty. It comes in the same size pots as the paint, which is really handy because it'll sit in the paint box with everything else. But you can get it in, I think you can get it in tubes. You can get a million different fillers. You can use green stuff if you like. You can use, I've seen people use plasticine. I'm not quite sure how successful that would be, but anyway, I'm going to use this. It is quite liquid when you start out. It's quite runny, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it means that it'll go into the very fine cracks and crevices, which is okay, but it means it's difficult to work to start with, and it needs to go off a little bit before it'll start holding the shape. So sometimes if you've got a particularly big gap, maybe down there somewhere, you might need to put a little bit in, leave it to dry, and then come back to it and put some more on. So that's what I might need to do. But anyway, I'm going to put some filler in these gaps and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, the putty has been put in all the cracks here. As I said, a little bit awkward to get at that one. I've been using well, I think this is a very cheap knockoff dental pick I got a long time ago for about £1 somewhere off a market or something, and just teasing the stuff into the cracks and smoothing it out with the back here, you know, get a nice smooth curve. It doesn't have to be fantastic, because the camouflage on these things, or more correctly, sorry, the jungle green that ends up looking a bit like camouflage, means that a lot of this thing is disguised anyway. So I don't think it'll matter too much that it's not perfect if you can't get into any of the recesses, but you know, smooth it off and it looks nice. So all we've got to do now is assemble the other little parts, and then we're all ready for painting. So there we are, all done. He's all glued together now. Don't know if you can see that. Focus. Okay, I'll put some stills up. He's got a good pose. He's got that great face. Got a wonderful backpack with the tin cup. The plastic putty is setting nicely now, so that'll be dry in about half an hour probably, and it'll be good to go to paint. So we'll break the painting down in a separate video because it's quite a long process. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that cleared up any of your questions, but if not, stick them in the comments and we'll see what we can do. So like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.